LinkedIn, wherever you're watching this live. Welcome to another episode of the Pencil Leadership Podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, the host, and you guys are in for a treat today. We have an amazing guest. It's Carrie Vanston. She is the alligator wrangler. Now, she works with organizations and people to help them escape the alligator pit of stress and frustration and move from that to energized growth mindsets overflowing with opportunities. Now, she's also been a co-author of the award-winning book, Mini Trends, and her article, 7 Tips for Getting Out of the COVID-19 Alligator Pit, recently appeared in the prestigious Texas CEO magazine. So Texas magazine, you know it's got to be big. So she's also an Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioner, an IPC Certified Professional Executive Coach, and an accredited ICF coach. So Carrie, welcome to Pencil Leadership.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so happy that you're here to share. But first, before we dive into what the alligator wrangler is, how did you get to becoming the alligator wrangler? What's a little bit about your story?
That is a great story. That is a great question, and I will definitely answer that. But let me back up just a little bit. I worked for a technology forecasting company for a long time, and what we found was that people didn't just want to forecast the future; they actually wanted to create their future. So we came up with a list of best practices that help people do that, to find small trends that were going to become important and then grow their companies or start companies around those trends. That became a book called Mini Trends. It won a couple of Best Book Awards. And we started doing consulting around it, and we did a seminar around it and coaching around it. But what I found over time was that there was just a lot of people really miserable, especially in the corporate world, because they just didn't have the opportunity to use their creativity and their innovation and their imagination, because their organizations had such a fixed mindset. So it was let's just do it the way we've always done it. Right. This is the way we've done it. Just do it and just shut up.
Right.
So I really wanted to help them. And so I started getting really interested in culture, in corporate culture, business culture, really, particularly in conscious capitalism, that, is really about just not being about the money, just about the stockholders, but actually being about the stakeholders, and especially the employees. And so I started really helping people with organizations with that, which I loved. But what I found over time, that if you didn't change the mindset of the leaders and the managers and the employees, that it was like putting Band-Aids, because, you would change something, but if the foundational thought wasn't changed, it really didn't change it in the long run. So I started getting really frustrated, and I started feeling horrible and fixed mindset, like, oh, I can't help these people. What am I going to do? And I just started really getting down too.
Yeah.
So then I did a 9-month executive coaching program, and I just really learned the techniques and the methodologies to actually help myself and help other people get out of that fixed mindset and move on to those energized mindsets. And when you get into those energized mindsets, where you've got that energy going, you've got suddenly the opportunities, the creativity, all of that stuff that really connects you to those big ideas happen when you move out of those lower, fight and flight energies, compromise energies. You pop up to those higher levels, that suddenly things start connecting, things start flowing. So it was really exciting that I had these techniques and methodologies. But one of the first people that I was working with, he came to me right after that, and he came to me and said, well, Carrie, I'm just, can you help me? I've got this list of to-dos this long, things are falling through the cracks. I'm afraid something really serious is going to fall through the cracks. I've got this budget. I can't seem to stay in my budget. I have deadlines. I'm worried I'm not going to get the deadlines taken care of. I'm just terrified I'm going to fail. My wife is pissed because I never come home for dinner on time.
Yep.
And he said, you know what? I just feel like I'm in an alligator pit. I said, alligator pit. I can totally relate to that. When something's going on with me, or something's going on with my client or my family. How do you get out of that?
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? No worries. I can get you out. I can keep you out and I can move you on. And I did. And that's when I became the alligator wrangler.
Oh, I love it. So you're taking all these things that come at us in business and in life, and you're getting rid of them. You're helping us get out of that pit and kind of level up in our lives and our mindsets and things.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
I
And
love
there's like,
it.
it's really wonderful because there's some really intentional, conscious ways that we can do that. There's really ways that, and the best leaders, and we're all leaders in one way or the other, as you well know,
Yeah.
with all the work you do. But whether we're leading our families, whether we're leading our communities, whether we're leading our companies, wherever we practice our religion or whatever,
Yeah.
or just getting ourselves out of bed, moving on to what you're going to do that day.
Yeah.
So
I
it's really
love the
important.
imagery too with that. I love because that's something very visible. Like you can picture a bunch of alligators coming at you. I picture personally, because you call me a nerd, whatever, Indiana Jones, that you can see him hanging off that rope bridge with rocks falling and all these alligators beneath him, and like he's holding on for dear life. And if you fall, you're just going to get devoured. And so like you're holding on by a thread, trying to get out and away from all these alligators around you. So I love the visualization with that. I think that makes it so real.
I love that. So maybe I should try looking at some of his imagery because, you think of him as like
have you seen
avoiding the
Indiana
alligator
Jones?
pit by just swinging over it.
Have you seen Indiana Jones?
Yes.
Okay, the Temple of Doom is what I'm talking about. So,
I've got to take another look at that. I've got to take another look at that.
So, but no, so I think you have what is it? 3 kind of secrets to help people get out of this alligator pit that they could be in.
Yeah, I sure do. The secrets are, how to get out of the alligator pit by thinking differently, by changing your core thought. And the second one is staying out of the alligator pit by communicating for true win-win. And then the third one is moving on from the alligator pit by really embracing your leadership impact, being more impactful as a leader. So those are kind of the three ways
I love that. So how does everyone know that they're in an alligator pit, or is this something that some people are unaware of?
I would say most people know that they're stressed out.
Yeah.
And they're frustrated because, it's like, all day long we have the expectations, frustrations, the personalities, and they're all kind of snapping at us. So in a smaller version, something small, it could be something little, but on a larger version, it could really start taking over your life.
True.
So the being able to change that mindset on the smaller ones, but particularly on the larger ones, like for example, one person I was working with, she had just gotten a great job. She'd just gotten a promotion to an executive position.
Okay.
And she was just really having a hard time because before she had been working with a small group of people and established clients, but now she was going to have to work with a lot more people underneath her. But she was also kind of one of the faces of the company now, where she had to go out and get clients and she had to go out and get sponsors. And she was stressed out because the workload was more. She was really kind of scared of failing. But the big deal was that she was really having a hard time with the networking because she felt like, at first she thought, oh, well, networking will be great. I'll, have free drinks. I'll go out and get free food. I'll have fun. But then once the reality set in, she realized that, it would probably be at night. It was almost always at night. She often didn't know anybody. And she didn't know anybody. And that often, what was the main thing was that she just felt like it was really salesy. She was like, she had an agenda now. She had to get people to do something, like this.
Right.
And, she said she'd just like drive to these things and she'd just be clutching her steering wheel like this, just wishing, did I leave the dog out?
Oh.
Did I forget to lock the door?
Yeah.
And then she told me, the first time we met, she said, I walked into this place and it was just like I knew no one. And all I wanted to do was like drift into the wallpaper, just disappear. And I finally found somebody and I glommed onto them and I just stayed with them the whole night. And then, I made a beeline for the door the moment I had a chance. But what she didn't do is she didn't do her job. She was
Mm,
supposed to meet people.
yeah.
And, it wasn't surprising because she was stuck in an alligator pit,
Yeah. With
and
all the stresses.
yeah.
So like with that, the stress of networking with and having to go out and all that. So would the alligators in that sense kind of be like all the things that she could have forgot at home, and then the stress of having to talk to new people that she didn't know at night. So all those kind of tied into being alligators, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She was basically the whole situation and the pieces leading up to it had caused an alligator pit that she really needed to get out of. And
Gotcha.
so the reason why she was in an alligator pit was because her core thought was really negative. Her core thought
Okay.
was that networking was fakey and awful. And so her emotion was being miserable, and her action was to hide out in the corner behind the potted plant.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
you got to act, you have a core thought, which
Yeah.
leads to an emotion, which leads to an action. If you change that, you can change any of those things, but if you want to be sustainable, you've got to change that core thought.
Okay. And
And
that's
then
part of the first
you
one
have a
is
way
how
to
to get
do it.
out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So in her case, we looked at her value in the situation. What value do you have that you can offer? And
Yeah.
when I say value, I mean, what do you know? What do you, your schooling, your education, the seminars you went to, all those things about life that we learn, the hard knocks, that you actually know that you can apply to things. And for her, she said, well, I know all the resources in town. I know everybody, as far as resources go. I could help them with resources. And then if they needed more help, I could say, well, let's make an appointment and we can talk further, and then get them in the office. And so she started feeling better about that, because there's only a certain, with the mindset, there's only a certain amount you can put in your brain. If you focus on something positive, then suddenly it blocks out that nervousness and that those negative alligators and that negative fixed mindset. So that was one thing we worked on. And another thing we worked on was past strengths. And this is just a great thing, is to really be thinking about what's your when in a circumstance in the past did you use your qualities. And this is, I'm talking more about your personality, your stubbornness, your resilience. How did you use that in a similar case in the past that you can bring to the future?
Okay.
And in her case, she'd gone to St. Patrick's Day party the year before, she said. And she said, I kept making jokes about this really funny centerpiece with these little leprechauns leaping around. And, I was picturing in my mind, it was really funny when, I started laughing too. And she said, I made 2 really good contacts that night. And, they were really, actually, they kind of led to my promotion, as a matter of fact. And I said, well, what past strength did you use there? And can you guess?
Humor.
Her sense of humor. And what's the first thing that goes down the tubes when we're nervous and stressed out? Our sense of humor. So we came up with what a couple of stories you could tell when you first introduced to somebody, maybe a couple of jokes that you could bring in. So just to kind of calm her down and let that sense of humor come out in an intentional way. So that's why I really, intentional is so important, because when we're in the heat of the moment, when we're in that alligator pit, when we're in that fixed mindset where all you can think of is that tunnel vision, if you have ways that you've already set, okay, this is what I'm going to do, then you can go back to those and you can drag yourself out in an intentional way, or better yet, you can stay out, which we'll talk about too. So that just gave her a way to kind of like stay on top of things. And then we also set goals for her where she would go to twice a week. She kind of committed to going to an event. She'd approach 2 people she didn't really know, and then she would try not to leave until she had at least 1, preferably 2 appointments. And then the accountability piece, each week she kind of tell me, okay, this is how successful I was around my goal. And I really think that's really important, having an accountability person, whether it's a coach like me or a friend or a coworker, or even a journal where you're journaling and keeping track, but something to kind of keep you a little bit accountable. But when you start putting this stuff together, and one of the things I really, getting off a subject a little bit with goals, what I would have her do is, it's really important. What you can do is you can really kind of like figure out what your goal might be. In her case, it was to be feeling comfortable. So she would have that, what about, she would have it written down. I'd say, look at that every night. You feel comfortable out with other people, and then feel how that would feel. So you close your eyes and you say, well, how would that feel? Oh gosh, when have I felt comfortable with people, and networking? Okay. I can see that, and it feels great.
Yeah.
So you feel great now, and you feel great in the future. And so your conscious is a law of attraction, which I'm sure a lot of your guests talk about. You set something up for yourself, and then you increase that by feeling it. And it's just a lot more likely to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then something similar or something close. It's going to be a lot closer than if you're thinking about something completely off. Off what you really want.
Yeah.
So the more you can set those goals and then feel them and practice them, the more likely, you're going to get what you want. And in her case, she started really enjoying, she'd come in and say, I actually had a good time last night. I'm beginning to meet friends, they're giving me referrals, and she actually got a raise not too long afterwards.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so I think that's so key. Like, to get out of this alligator pit, to get out of all that's going on is like you said, thinking differently and changing that thought process, and then incorporating feelings with those thoughts, because that puts a whole nother dynamic on it for change and for growth. And so I that's awesome. I think that's huge in so many regards. Change our thinking to get out of whatever situation that's not really what we want to be in.
Intentionally too.
Yes, so intentionally.
Instead of reacting, which is what we often do, instead being able to be proactive. And think, okay, this is what's going on. How do I proactively react so that I have control over the situation instead of the situation kind of.
True. And I think with practice, then that almost becomes reaction.
Yes.
So I think that, that's perfect. Yeah. Intentionality.
To take that a step further, Chris, is then you can start helping other people do the same thing. Because you can look at them and say, oh man, they're core up. How can I bring it up?
Right. No, that's perfect. And that's the ultimate goal, right? To help other people with everything. So that's cool.
As a leader, definitely.
Yeah. So thinking different, intentionally thinking different, attaching emotion with it, feelings, that gets us out. Now, how do we stay out so we don't fall back in to this alligator pit?
And actually, that was kind of what I just was starting to bring, that was what I was touching on just then when I said, is getting the other person to reflect what you truly want. So for staying out, what you want to do is you want to interact and communicate for true win-win. And what happens is we've been taught to compromise. We're always taught, oh, compromise is great. Oh yeah, make it work out, but with compromise, everybody's not getting what they want. At least one person isn't getting what they want, and probably more. So if we can change that thinking to win-win, because when you have a win-win, you really connect to a higher intelligence. You connect to that creativity, you connect to that intuition, that visionary energy. So if you as a leader, and again, we're all leaders, if we can help find out the other person's win in an intentional way, and then once we know their win, then we can take our own win, which we know, and we can frame the two wins around each other, their win around our win, and then we create that win-win situation.
Okay.
And that's when things really change.
Do you think that that's always possible? Do you think a win-win's always possible?
If you approach it that way, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you might kind of think of a win-win as with compromises being, I win, and if you win, great, but I'm going to win. But if you really think I'm going to win and the other person's going to win, and we're going to figure out a way. Now, it could be that if you intentionally really find out that the person is really toxic to you, it might be your win is to get away from that person and their win is to get away from you.
Yeah.
And sometimes with the politics,
right.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. No, I was just interested. So yeah, I think that definitely creating an environment where it's best for both parties. Like for example, like when we're reaching out to clients and things, there are some obviously who don't do it this way, but connecting, figuring out what their problem is. And it's like, you're not going to go to a chef and say, oh yeah, I'll help you cook better. Just because you're a coach, so that wouldn't be a win-win. So you'd be like, hey, I could help you maybe with your mindset in your business, but I'm not going to be able to help you cook better. So they get a win because they don't get played and waste money on someone who can't help them, and they get help with mindset, or getting out of the alligator pit from you, and you get to help somebody. So that almost like changing the trajectory of what could be to a win-win. Is that tracking right?
In that case,
because like what I was thinking, like
the cook is winning because he's learning how to, he or she is learning how to be more satisfied, more fulfilled, and more successful with the coach helping. The coach is getting a win because hopefully they're getting paid, but they're getting the satisfaction of helping this person.
Whereas if they go at it and get paid and they're saying, I'm going to help you cook, and then they don't know how to cook or really get them to that point, the cook's losing because they're not really getting good help, but the coach is winning because they're getting paid. So that would be the wrong way to frame it.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure. Yeah. So no, that's good.
So you both, and it's like, I talk about it in level. Do I have let's see if I can find it real quick. You have different levels of I use a lot of, this is an assessment that I give. And down here, you've got compromise. Down here, you have fight and flight. And the more you can push this compromise to win-win, the more you get into this visionary and the genius levels. But one of the guys I was working with, has a wealth management business, and he was having a really hard time because a lot of his people were kind of arguing with him, and the culture was just kind of getting kind of negative. And he was also having people feeling like they weren't doing a good job. They were worried and they were upset. And so anyway, he kind of brought me in to just kind of, how do I bring this up to a growth? How do I bring, our relationships up to a growth mindset so that we can be more successful and really tap into, some of these higher levels. And so the first thing we did was we looked at that, and that was his. He had a lot of compromise. He had a lot of visionary, because he had started this company and, he was growing the company. But as the company grew, he was getting a lot of that compromise energy where it wasn't that, it wasn't positive. It was just like, oh, okay, well, we'll figure this out. And, there was a lot of problems. So the first thing I did was I had him go out and really talk to every person and say, be curious about them and find out about them. Because what we really want to do is we want to connect with other people. We're wired as human beings. We want to be cared about.
Yeah.
And when companies don't care about their people, they get disengaged. So I really wanted him to connect and, ask questions about, well, what did you do this weekend? What are your dreams? And really kind of find out about them. Cool. And but by using open-ended questions, because a lot of times we ask a question like, well, are you happy with your job? Because it's yes or no. But if you ask, what do you love about your job? What would you like to do more of? And that's something we can all ask ourselves if we are kind of stuck in a job, or if we're looking for a new job, is what do I love about what I'm doing? Because if you are kind of stuck in a job like that, some of your audience members might be kind of feel stuck, is asking yourself, okay, I like this little piece of it. I like the social, maybe I like the part where I like the part where when someone has a birthday party, I organize it. Well, maybe you got to organize lunch and learns. Maybe that could lead to maybe organizing meetings. Maybe that could lead to starting a conference for the company. Or maybe once you start really concentrating on the things you're good at and moving yourself into it, then when you apply for another job somewhere else, you can say, wow, I could put that on my resume. I put together lunch and learns. I put together the birthday parties. And then suddenly you're aiming. And again, it's like the goal setting. It's like, if I want to be in a job where I can deal with, have fun with people, how can I get there? You put it out there, the feeling, and then you create the feeling in the present, and then it connects.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the whole point being too is by being curious and asking open questions to his people, he got to know them better. Another thing, listening intuitively. So instead, I would tell him, well, look at their mannerisms, the tone of their voice, their energy. That what kind of energy do you feel when they're talking? And it's like when you ask a question subjectively, if you ask, what do you want to buy this? Now that then the person says, no, I don't think so. Oh, let me tell you all the reasons. That's very subjective. It's all about me.
Right.
Objectively, you could say, are you interested in buying this product? And say, no, I'm not sure if I'm interested. Well, why not? Tell me all about the reasons why. So that's better. At least you're getting their input. But if you can listen intuitively and ask, well, I can tell something's bothering you about this. Can you kind of go more into it? And so you open the person up, and then you really start, finding out about the person.
Okay, awesome.
So anyway, the client started doing this, and he told me that he had one person who came in, and the guy was changing the app behind his back that my client had chosen for the company. And the client was complaining, and so my client, the person who was running the company, he knew he had to call him in, and normally he would have just chewed him out, and maybe the guy would have quit, and been a big scene. Instead, he said, "No, Carrie says there's always a win-win. I'm going to bring him in." So, what's bothering you about the app? What's going on with the client? By the end of the conversation, the guy calmed down, and he'd gotten some ideas about the app, and he didn't want the guy to quit. He really needed him. So the relationship improved, and he started coming to meetings and, being not that black cloud, but, being a whole lot more positive. So, it turned into a real win-win because he listened and showed interest.
No, that's all. I love that. And that helps, I think. Yeah. So reflecting and framing it so it's a win-win helps kind of keep you out of the negativity, because then you're having all that positive actions you're taking towards that. And so from that, then it's moving out, right? Moving on with the leadership aspect.
Yes.
Okay. So how's that work after you've done these win-wins, you've listened, you choose the positive mental framework basically, and now you're moving out of the way.
Yeah. And this is, if you really want to inspire other people, you've got to be really clear. And all of this stuff is about clarification. What do I really want? How am I going to interact? And then how am I going to lead? How am I going to get people to follow me? And how am I going to inspire myself? Because if you're really passionate about what you're doing, then people feel that. If you can find something unique about yourself, then you stand out.
Yeah.
And if you're really clear about your impact, then you can really change the way people think about it. Like for me, my passion is that I really feel that people can be more fulfilled. People can be more happy, and they can be more successful. There's so many people that, our life is short, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's enjoy it and have abundance. And so there's a lot about, just being confident, choosing abundance, choosing fulfillment, choosing these things that you can have a lot of effect on it. And a lot of people just don't know that because one, they're either too stuck.
Right.
and they need to be brought up some by somebody or by through a methodology, different methods, or they just, they're just going along and they don't realize that they can actually raise that to a higher level. So, I just feel really passionate since I have the tools to do that, to help people do that and help them help other people. And what's unique is I do have these techniques and methodologies because I went through, this amazing mindset program. And then my impact is I'm hoping, to change the way people think, so that change the way companies think, so that they have a culture that is more caring and conducive to helping all the stakeholders, whether mainly the employees, but also the community and the society and the world and the stockholders too, because
there's a ripple effect, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
I always tell people, look and find out what your passion, uniqueness, your whys, why you're passionate, why you're unique, and why you have an impact. And then other people will want to know your what. One of my clients, he's building a large community center, and he was having a hard time buying in. And it was like, well, what do you feel passionate about? And he said, well, I feel like millennials are kind of left in the cold, that, they seem successful, but they really don't have any place to connect. So I want this community center to help them connect. And then what's unique is I wanted to have a very much of a digital imprint where I can connect them to our nonprofit partners in real time. So he was developing an app so that, they could come up, they could see maybe a kiosk or, go on the telephone and say, oh, well, they need some help over there. I'm going to go right now. So that was kind of the unique. And then the impact was he really wanted to change the community for the better and have a model to show others. So, now he says Solimar promotes joy, personal growth, and social good. Awesome. And he goes out to his meetings and he says this, and people, he's kind of a shy guy and not soft-spoken. I wouldn't say shy, I'd say soft-spoken. And he says that, and he says it with determination. And people are like, well, what's that all about? Let me give you my email. Let me see what I can do for you. So, it makes a difference. So that's what I would really strongly suggest is, be clear about, I know you have, what is your uniqueness, passion, and impact? I know you have a strong one.
Oh, Pencil Leadership. It's to impact a million lives, ultimately through helping people see their potential and see their worth as more than a title or label that the world puts on them.
And how are you unique?
How am I unique? Unique because I think we focus so much on the external, especially in my millennial area. And we, like you said, we have that label of it all together being successful, but I think so many are dealing with that low self-worth, that low potential in themselves. And they can't break through that fear because of just the programming, the mindset that we've been trained and taught for so long. So be able to take somebody through that into their potential, I think makes me unique.
Yeah. Well, I love your name, the leadership thing is very good.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I love that. Yeah. And of course you're unique in that you're out there doing a podcast. So there's a lot of other podcasters, of course, but it's a tough thing. So I think that makes you unique too, that you're really sharing your insights and you're growing all the time. So that's very cool. So
absolutely. Yeah. And I love doing it. So it's really cool. Definitely.
Isn't it true that people really follow you because they feel that about you? They feel like, you've got that.
It's cool when I share that story. And when I share what Pencil Leadership is, people are like, whoa, I love that. Like, man, that resonates. And that's cool. That's because they hopefully take something from it. So definitely. But I loved these three steps to get out of the alligator pit. I mean, how to get out, staying out, and moving out, all starting with our mindset and the choice, intentionality with it, and then framing a win-win, and then leadership going forward and really kind of making a difference in that ripple effect from it, getting that clarification in the journey. And I think a lot of people can look at this and take this information into any aspect, like you said, business, personal,
Definitely.
And there's so much good. And so I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing this with the audience and for those who watch it in the future.
You're welcome. And it's interesting because it kind of comes from getting out is the personal part, the individual part, and then staying out is the other people, connecting to other people. And then the moving on is the whole audience.
Yeah, bigger. Yeah,
So it kind of
absolutely.
gets bigger and bigger as you go up.
Absolutely. I love it. So where, before we go, I like to ask a couple questions, but first off, where can people connect with you if they want to find out more about the alligator wrangler?
You can go to my website, carrievanston.com, but you can also look up the alligatorwrangler.com. They go to the same place.
Awesome.
You're welcome to email me, Carrie, Carrie, at Carrie, Carrie, Vanston, V as in Victor, ANSTON.com, Carrie at carrievanston.com. And if you want to reach out to me, I'd be happy to send you my 12 quick and dirty ways to get out of the alligator pit.
Awesome. Yeah. And that email and the links will be in the show notes, guys. So you can check that out and connect with Carrie.
Oh, and one other thing, Chris,
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
happy to offer a half-hour free coaching session around a alligator pit they might be into.
Awesome.
So happy to do
that'd
that.
be great.
And I do have a program, a really wonderful intensive program and a premier program, 10 sessions that just will take you through these 3 things. That they have worksheets, one-on-one coaching, and it's made to be fast and very effective. And I'd love to, in the assessment that I talked about, this assessment is either standalone or part of that. So happy to talk to people about that too.
Yeah, we'll have all the links to her. Yeah, we'll get the links to all of that in the show notes for you guys to connect with her. But before, last question, this has to do with the pencil leadership, the last trait, and we're all created for a purpose. To leave a positive mark. So when everything is said and done for you here on earth, what do you hope your mark is?
Reset mindset.
Reset mindset. I love it. I love it. So
and also, see you later, alligator is another one, a good one.
Perfect. I love it. So Carrie, I thank you so much again for sharing the 3 steps to get out of the alligator pit. And just reset your mindset. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
No problem. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in live on another episode of Pencil Leadership. And remember to share, rate, review the show. It helps us get out to more people. And